Catching up with Sarah and Ginny, fueled by laughter and insights aplenty. Curiosity, connection, and learning that sticks. Real talk, real lives with practical tips. Welcome to Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny. Come on in.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny. And we are thrilled to have Ben Whitaker here today. We've already had an off-camera chat about branding, incidental branding, Ben's hat, about mugs. For those watching, mugs. Where's your mug, Ben? It's all about the mug, isn't it? It's all about the mug.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Ben, tell us who you are and what you do, please.
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's I know it's been a little while coming in, and thank you for your patience in that. So yeah, my name is Ben Whitaker. I'm a former religious studies and sociology teacher, head of sixth form. So I came from that background, and for the last 6 years, I have been an independent consultant, even though I hate that word, supporting organisations to think differently, usually around tech and AI, but not exclusively. I'm also the co-host of the Edufuturist podcast, which is just over 10 years old. We have awards and content and events and road shows, as well as the podcast as well. So yeah, two hats that I wear as the Edufuturist hat, and the branding that you see there is I wrote a book called The Ideas Guy, around not about me being the ideas guy, but about everybody being an ideas guy, and then how we can learn from everybody in that space. So yeah, really looking forward to a conversation today.
I love that. And I love that whole thing around everyone can be the ideas guy. I think that's so important. And Ben, we waited because you're so busy, because you're kind of, there's so much, because there's so much happening currently, particularly around technology and just AI, everything really, and changing the face of it. And so I definitely want a few private conversations after this as well around the technology and around actually how we can stop conversations around affordability, which seems to be, as soon as you mention anything about technology, it seems to come down to money straight away. That's my kind of bugbear. So within all of that, and it's really interesting to hear around some of the things that you're currently doing, particularly the podcast as well. Have you got a wow moment that you want to share? Something which, it can be now or in the past, whatever.
I think there's a few. So in terms of like what gave me a wow to get into education technology in the first place, I think is a really interesting place to start. If that's all right. So
yeah, great.
I was a religious studies teacher, as I've mentioned, so teaching a lot of A-level philosophy, religion, and ethics, and A-level sociology as well. Turned out that one day my deputy head, the head teacher actually, just said, "Oh, we've offered A-level sociology, we've no one to teach it," and they said, "Would you do it?" I was like, "How on earth are you thinking that I would be able to teach it?" They said, "Well, you're the closest in terms of your qualifications and your subjects." So I ended up, they gave me a textbook there and then and said, just as long as you're a chapter in front of everybody else, and I taught A-level sociology from scratch. It's not, I didn't tell the kids at that time that I had no clue. But yeah, and we did very well. So I taught A-level, and so I was a head of sixth form, teaching 2 A-level subjects and the GCSE subjects around it. I had quite a hefty teaching timetable around it, and I was coming home every night and weekends and marking, as we do. And I'm sat there going, there must be a way to do this better. I was writing the same comments in green pen because obviously red's aggressive, and my kids were also young at the time, saying, "Dad, why are you always marking?" And it was just one of those things where I'd sit in my chair, I had the same chair, my papers would be here, my laptop would be there to record, and it was just, I was thinking there must be a better way to do this. And so that's when I found Google Classroom and the technology space in that, so which helped with that effective, quick feedback, comments and stuff like that. So that was a wow. That was a first wow moment, really. And I think in my world, one of the big wow moments was being asked to go and speak at a conference in South Africa, which was pretty special.
Brilliant.
Obviously, I've been privileged to go around the world, but being in Cape Town and Johannesburg, different years, was pretty special. And then based on that organisation, I then got asked to go to Rwanda as well. So they were pretty special times, if I'm honest. But without being super cheesy in it, I think my other wow moment would be around. I got my ADHD diagnosis just over 2 years ago, and it almost opened up my thinking to go, that explains it, and also allowed me to use that as an explanation, not as an excuse, but as an explanation into how I behaved and how I needed to react and relate to other people. It just gave me a whole new sense that if I'd have had that when I first started teaching, or even when I was a youngster, as a diagnosis, not necessarily as a label or it might just have helped me navigate my own crazy brain, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think because there's a lot of discussion around actually the use of labels and diagnosis and particularly, working in schools, there's a lot of conversation around, well, we don't want to label, we don't want to, but, as an adult, you saying that about, how that's helped you think, okay, that's why or that's actually why I think like that. I think that's one of the most important things. It's like, that's how come, because you think everyone thinks like that, or
Yeah.
everyone responds to something like that. And I think that Ginny and I have these conversations quite a lot around the wow moment of, oh, they don't. When you're presenting particularly and you're trying to present some information and you're like, oh, actually not everyone sees it as quickly or in the same way. So do in terms of that diagnosis, is that something when you're speaking and when you're, working with kind of like young people as well, is that something you would really recommend is something that does happen earlier on?
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
because there's a real feel, isn't there, that, oh, we don't need to be, and the waiting list is this long. But
Yeah.
my take is always, but it's going to be supportive, longer term. It's not just
Yeah.
right now.
I do think that. I think there's that we need people who need that diagnosis or need that support to be given that support. But I think there's on the flip side to it as well. I also think that it is really easy to take labels and to make labels. And somebody said to me, there was a campaign from many years ago that I used in my RE classes, and I've actually used in my marketing sessions since, about labels are for joys, not for people. And so that always landed with me. But I also think there's a lot of challenges around the terminology that's used: special needs, disadvantage, deficit.
Deficit disorder.
Yeah, all those things are
So,
just in the UAE. I've been privileged to work in the UAE a little bit, and they use the phrase for those people who've got learning difficulties or that have got learning differences. They call them people of determination, and I think that's really much more powerful. I also like the idea that people who are TAs, there's a US model that's called interventionists, and actually they're interveners, and that rather than somebody who's an assistant to the teacher or they're an LSA and they just get that they're an intervener. Actually, okay, we're going to go in and support and intervene. I think that's really important. So the terminology, language really matters, and I think that really is something that I'm really passionate about. I speak about that almost every single time I do start a presentation. I just want to let you know, if I go off on everything, it's not an excuse, but I want to give you a reason and explanation. So
yeah.
I
And I
tell
think
people,
that's really important because it is around those labels, because actually it, it isn't that one label isn't the same for everyone. Somebody with ADHD is completely different. And actually, but it's about understanding some of the thinking or the
yeah,
processing time needed. I think that's my biggest thing when when I'm going to classrooms and working with learners and with staff. It's like, we just don't think of that enough, about that opportunity to really process and understand the learning.
And I think what you said about understanding ourselves and being understood,
Yeah.
that is, I think, puts it into it, understanding ourselves and being understood. And exactly like you're saying, Sarah, what would benefit an individual to feel valued and to be able to be in that classroom and to feel present and to feel valued.
And
I,
not
I
different.
had a great conversation with a guy called Dr. Ian McCritchie, who's involved with the MCI Foundation and works in that space. He talks about young people being seen, heard, and safe, seen, and heard, and that's really important. And I think that is that psychological safety that Amy Edmondson talks about, and the other pieces in that, I think there's a whole lot wrapped up in it, and it's not like this wet walk mentality. Actually, if we understand people and we are understood, we start to do that real universal design for learning. We really think about how we can develop a society. I think the biggest challenge in societies is that we don't care to understand, and therefore we don't care about difference, and it's my way or the highway type stuff.
And it's that psychological safety actually is really, really key. And again, that's that whole thing about this, it's not that there's something wrong with you or that, you just can't do something. It is actually that there's a reasoning behind all of that. There's a difference in the way that you're thinking about this. I just need to get that and give you a bridge to help you to understand that information in the way that you need. Oh no, I love all of that. And also on that, sociology, I had to move. I couldn't go to my local high school or secondary school because they didn't offer sociology when I wanted to do it as an A-level, Ben. So, I had to go to Weymouth College to get it. I think the words were, we don't do sociology A-level. I'm not sure we ever will.
Wow.
I
love teaching sociology. I'm not going to lie. Loved it.
Wow. There you go. See, I needed you at that time. I still do it and I loved it. But yeah, thank you for that, Ben.
Yeah. And we were saying about, learning. Every day we learn. And every day we learn something new about an individual. We're putting that in our toolbox, aren't we? And then we can use it again in the future. And it's having that, it's making yourself open to people thinking in different ways and appreciating it as well. I hadn't thought of it like that, but now you say it like that, I can learn from you. So no, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, Ben. So if we move on then, so if Send were a song, Ben, what would it be and why? And I can tell you, we get such a wide range of answers, Ben, and it might be a song from now, a song from the past. Hit us with it.
I feel like I'm cheating by doing two again. So I'll do the first one quickly and the second one a little bit longer. So the first one
you need more songs. It's fine.
So the first one, and this is left field, is my wedding song. So that my wife walked down the aisle to was "Amazed" by Lone Star. And she, interestingly, for one of our anniversaries, she printed, those things where you can print out the lyrics and you can put them in so we had that. And we chose that. And the reason why I say that is because, and this sounds a little bit cheesy, and hopefully she can't hear me from the next room, it's that idea that she, despite all my little proclivities it was that idea that she accepted that, and that even though I think there's that, we're 20 years married next year, and we have this conversation. I've actually been writing a piece, a blog series around living with your ADHD partner, but I think Amaze really stands in that. I'm not saying that she's amazed by me, but I am absolutely amazed by the fact that she stuck at it. So that sounds a bit cheesy, but I'll be straight on that one. The second one is that totally for the other side of that is away from like romantic space. Is I'm a big Blink 182 fan, like huge. I like seen them lots of times. They're probably they're probably my favorite band. And there's a great song that they wrote relatively recently called "One More Time," and it talks about so the band split up and they fell out, and there was a whole set of things that happened that caused them to come back together as a band. One of them was the bass player got cancer. The other one was that the drummer was in a plane crash, and the lead singer went through a bit of a turmoil around some other bits as well. And the conversation was, should it take, and some of the lines are, should it take an airplane crash, almost dying, to realise that we need to care for each other and one more time. So in that send space, in that inclusion space, it feels a little bit like we become islands and we think, we can go out in our own different way, and every person needs their own thing. So the personalized curriculum, individualized curriculum, all the stuff that goes with that, which I absolutely believe in, and absolutely believe that AI can really help in that space. but I also know that we're better together, and we need to be. We need to realize that we aren't an island. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and we need that one more time of being the people around us that can lift us up and take us when we need it. So it sounds a little bit like where would that link in? But I think one more time is it's worth one more time for the learner that's forgotten. It's worth one more time for rethinking that lesson plan and all the other things that go with it.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
I think
goodness.
yeah, I think
Sorry,
you're
go on,
right.
Jen.
Then there can be situations where we can move away from one another for whatever reason, and it might be a relationship, a connection with a particular child, as a senka, with a teacher, with a parent, and then we have to go, actually we can go back together. I think it's, what is it, diverging and converging, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah,
And it is that, once again, it's opening your mind up again to go, let me look at that in a different way. I'm all for venting partners, Ben. So if we have a tricky day, or we have a tricky connection with somebody, we go and speak to somebody about it and find a way to reconnect. So I'm completely with you.
I think it's that whole thing about that reconnect. And I love that, the one more time, because often we don't look for solutions until things fall apart. So the plane crash, or and actually that is the culture a little bit, isn't it? That learners have to fail, or learners have to,
yeah,
and they fail quite a few times. It's like, before actually we get really serious about, okay, what else can we do to support? And it is that, I'm a huge universal design for learning, and AI. I love the things that we can do in terms of personalizing learning, and getting that engagement, and getting the young people to kind of really want to, as Howell always, we were talking about Howell earlier, but lean in, that they want to go, oh, what's this going to be? Social, whatever the topic might be. So no, I love both of those. I think they'll be great. We've got a Spotify playlist that we have the songs
nice.
on. So I think they'll be a great addition to that. But thank you. And I look forward to listening, because I think the first one, Amaze Lone Star, although I might have to start crying then when I listen, and
Yeah,
knowing it's
yeah.
your wedding song as well, Ben. And then the story behind it. Yeah. Wonderful. So thinking around a book that you want to share with us, or talk about, do you have one that you feel you'd like to talk
Yeah,
about?
I can't possibly say my own, but
People have, Ben. People
I'm not going
have.
to do that. We've got a new one coming out, actually. Edufuturist got one coming out this summer called Pick and Mix Education. But
There you go.
that one's good. But the book that I would choose is by a chef. This is a bit strange, called Will Gadara, and the book's called Unreasonable Hospitality. And it is hands down. Well, I say hands down. I read a lot of books, so this is a big statement. It is definitely top 5 books I've ever read, and I reckon I've probably read 2,000-3,000 books, but it's definitely, maybe even more. And the book is based. He started a restaurant in New York called 11 Madison Park, and he took it to become the #1 restaurant in the world, which is pretty epic considering where it started. And the book is on the premise that everybody is in the hospitality business. And even though he was in the hospitality business, I think everybody in education, and this is where my brain went into, he didn't talk about it in education, but education, business, marketing, everything is about hospitality. And it's also that
Serving
unreasonable
customers.
hospitality.
It's about
Yeah,
customers, isn't
absolutely.
it? Making it the best offer for your customers.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out in the book, there's loads really good examples of things that they did and what they learned in that space. I've gifted that book to at least 10 people, and I bought it for 10 people because I just think I think everybody needs to read it. But in the book, one example he talks about is he's working the restaurant, and there's a table. Obviously, they go into it's a high end restaurant, and these people have come to New York and they've got their suitcases. It's the last day. This is their last meal, and they've gone to 11 Madison Park because it's the one. But he overhears a conversation where they're a little bit disappointed that they've come to New York and not had a New York hot dog from a New York hot dog stand. So they're sat in this really high end restaurant and they've not had this New York hot dog. So he just goes into unreasonable hospitality mode, goes out to a hot dog vendor out the road, buys a hot dog, takes it back into his kitchen. They slice it up and they dress it up on a nice plate. So it's 11 Madison Park quality, and bring it out to the table as a little entree, and just said, I overheard, sorry, I hope you don't mind, I overheard that you hadn't had a New York hot dog and I wanted to make sure you didn't miss out on that. And they were just flabbergasted. And interestingly, everybody, they told everybody. He said that was the review conversation. Everybody was talking about the hot dog. And I'm here sat on a podcast 10 years or 5 years, 6 years after reading it, still talking about it, because that conversation is. And I still, when I went to New York, I didn't go to 11 Madison Park. I didn't have enough cash in my bank. Maybe one day I'll be able to go. But like, I was watching it, and I went to see where it was. Wanted to know where it was because of that level of care. And I think there's something in that around for inclusion, for SEND, for teaching, for leadership, for everywhere. If you think about how can you be unreasonably hospitable, and how can you care deeply about the people that really you are doing this for. So I could go on and on and on. I've got loads of books and loads of learnings from it, but that one's really resonated.
And I love that, because it is that thing about you listen to, that someone's actually cared enough to kind of, to do something in response to. And I think that's something that's really, that we've got to get back into, or we've got to somehow build it as deeply into, I talk a lot about choices, universal design for learning, that whole thing around what can we make in terms of choices? How can we embed them in our classrooms, in everything? And I know sometimes people say, I've got 30 children. How can we make choices? We can't all go and get them all hot dogs. And it's like, okay, so what can we do? How can we embed that principle, that understanding? No, I love that. I want to go and see the restaurant.
And I think it's kind of in the classroom to go, what is your hot dog today? Isn't it?
Imagine that they'd be like 30 hot dogs, forget it.
But obviously it's metaphorical. But what is the thing that you are going to do in place of the hot dog that will make a difference because of the conversations that have been heard? And what I love, Ben, is it was an incidental conversation that could have just remained with those people, but because someone was listening, and Sarah, we go back to curiosity. Somebody was curious.
What is it they really want?
And actually that person was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to kind of take a chance by giving them this. And they were like, this is amazing. And it comes back to
little thing.
That sense of curiosity.
It is a little thing often, isn't it?
Yeah. I love it, Ben. I love it. And I think this idea of, metaphorically, what can be the hot dog thing you can do today.
100%.
And we also talk about this a lot, don't we, Sarah, on the podcast?
Yeah.
The little thing
make a difference.
That makes a huge difference, because in the classroom, we do that once and that child feels valued, but then also their classmates also go, gosh, actually, they did that. They value that individual. They value me. And it becomes quite reciprocal. So that the classroom becomes a place where everyone is listened to.
I think just to throw a couple of bits into that as well, if I can, if we've got time. Stephen Bartlett, who obviously is blown up as a human being into his podcast, he employed a head of failure at his organisation. And literally a job title is to find ways to fail and fail fast, because we want to get in that process, and that's not normal in education or in life. You don't want to fail, but he deliberately tries to fail at things, or this woman does, to try and find where your weak points are so you can get stronger. And the other bit that resonates there as you're talking about and little things, reminded of the famous work that Sir Brailsford did with Team Sky about marginal gains, and about they thought about the literally Team Sky, when they were on the Tour de France and when they took the mattresses with them that riders would sleep on, so that they didn't have to go to another hotel in a different space and then get used to a different mattress, because they realized that the thickness of the fibers, the seat, everything was almost identical, because they wanted to get those marginal gains. And I think it was quite popular in education, talking about what's your marginal gains, and it used to be like, what's a little thing in maths that's going to help you get, and they're all great, but I think there's marginal gains culturally, marginal gains planning strategy, as well as just within subject areas for revision.
Yeah, and I think it is that, isn't it? And I just overheard that conversation recently, and I just want to go back to thinking. So was a young person saying, "I just wish the teacher gave me more time to think about that." And do you know how, like I heard that, so now I'm going to feed that back. But it's just, where could we have built in to just and other conversations are like, "Oh, the chairs are too hard. I wish I had a cushion." Or oh, they seem to get all of that. They finish their work really quickly, and then they get the points that I never get because I can't finish my work. It's those little things of like, what is it that is constantly chipping and making a difference? And I would be a great one for taking my own mattress. I think that's a brilliant. I'm very fussy.
Do you know it's really funny that you mentioned that? It's almost like ironic. This week, I've put a research proposal to a university and to a couple of professors. I've never done research before, but about thinking time.
Yeah.
Because there's two reasons. Literally yesterday that went out to the proposal because there's two things that are in my mind. First one is that when I first started, one of my first observations as a teacher. I had a conversation. I had A-level kids in front of me, and this lad Johnny Westwell, I still remember him. He asked a question.
Always one. Yep.
He asked a question. It was a brilliant question, and my response to him, I don't even know what the question was, but my response to him was, "I love that. We'll pick that up again, but we just need to move on to the next thing." And the observer, who became a good friend, actually said to me, "You missed a real opportunity there for deep reflection and learning," and it stuck with me that. And the second thing that comes with it is that on the podcast, we often talk, Edufuturist podcast, I often talk about there being so much stuff in education, but not enough space. And the phrase that I use quite a lot is we need less stuff, more space. And we have a curriculum review and they put more stuff in. They don't take anything out. They don't say, well, AI is saving us all this time and effort, and tell you what we're going to do is therefore we're just going to give some reflective space, some time. No, we're going to go, well, what else can we put in that space? Keep putting, but we do need that deep thinking.
Yeah. But it is that the time stuff as well. Sorry, Ginny, is that thing around it's spoken about. So like universal provision, ordinarily available offers from local authority, all built in. Loads, almost every EHCPSC will be given thinking time. Have you seen, when you go into classrooms, what that actually looks like? But also, have we got real clear models? So great if you use a researcher, like what is that actually going to be like in a classroom? And how can we give teachers, like, don't just tell them you need to build in thinking time. Like, how am I going to do that? What's it going to look like? Am I going to have some kind of practical thing? Can someone model it to me? So I can see what my thinking time is, but also to be aware that that's different for different young people. So how do I build that in? It's not impossible. It's possible, but we've got to model it. We've got to coach people with it and have like little examples of things. Sorry, Ginny, go for it.
No, you're right. We're talking about thinking time, but then I think it goes back to just finding time to connect with an individual. The amount of times, because I go across a number of schools, the amount of time, if I say, have you had your hair done? And they get taller, then go, yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I had my hair done. And the amount of times, and maybe it's me, but I will say to children who I don't see on a daily basis, when I see they've got their ears pierced, sometimes I go, have you had your ears pierced? Yeah, I had them done 2 weeks ago. Oh, okay. And you see them getting taller because it is that noticing and giving them time to have that conversation, and it becomes a dialogue. And it just all comes back to time and remembering. I think that's another one as well. We connect, we remember, oh, you had your ears pierced, you've got different earrings. And they go, yeah, I have. Yeah, I have.
We need time for that. Because actually, everything's so fast, you got to get through all your content. You haven't got time to notice their hair or their ears. Really.
But then I say, we do have break times. So, when I'm on duty, that's when I have the conversation, or when I'm walking down the corridor, which actually is grounding for me because I'm actually thinking about something else, which is about just stopping, Ben, isn't it? It's about that pausing.
Do you know what's really funny, though? That was really, really funny is that when we were at university training to be teachers, we used to have a box on every lesson plan, which was reflection. And I used to ignore it like crazy. Like I remember Leroy, I used to ignore it like crazy. I never used to do it. because I was like, and I remember my uni lecturers going, "Why have you need to do your reflections?" And I used to just make stuff up.
Yeah.
And then I look back now and think, blooming heck, I missed a trick there. Why have I not got reflection as my and that's why I created the ideas guide card. It's why I created reflection journals, because I think we need to help people reflect in that space.
Because that's how you learn. Actually, you learn by reflecting back on something. I'll tell you what, though, I'm going to be looking up Stephen Bartlett's Failure. I like that because I'm really obsessed with as well Gillian Anderson being the chief compliments person for Marks and Spencer's. I am like, both of those roles are like, actually, this is what we need in schools. You know, we need to actually be really looking at what's working, what's not working, learning from that, reflecting. So, Ben, this has been amazing.
We've got a lot to do. We've got a lot to do. And going back to what you said very early on about being a chapter in front of everyone else when you were doing your sociology, I think it's quite a good way to finish, because kind of sometimes we need to be a chapter in front, and sometimes maybe we just, hey, this is deep. Sometimes maybe we just need to close the book sometimes and just observe alongside that.
Yeah. There you go, Ginny. See, Ginny always brings it back. What's your dad says? Ginny calms the job down. It's like that. Brings it back.
That's what my dad always used to say. Yeah. I weigh the job up, Ben, and I calm the job down occasionally.
Wonderful.
It has been a joy. It's been an absolute joy, Ben, kind of listening to you, chatting with you. It's just been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for being on. And as we always say, Sarah, always a pleasure.
Never a chore. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us this time on Catching Up with Sarah and Ginny.
Always a pleasure and never a chore.